Hey, babe.
Hey.
You better finish up. You know the album awards are about to start.
Oh my god, that's tonight. How could I forget? I'm turning it on now.
We'll share this life like we ought to.
Hey there, folks. It's Mark from Spectrum Pulse here, and none of you touch that dial, because coming up next, we have the first ever premiere of the Album Awards, only on ARTV.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first ever album awards ceremony. Home of a twat with a budget so low he couldn't even afford to pay me for this intro, so I'll be dipping out after these introductions. Please give a standing ovation to welcome your host for this exciting evening, John from ARTV.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I am indeed your host, John from ARTV, and you're watching the first ever Album Awards. This is a show where I'll celebrate all of the best and worst music for all 4 quarters of the year. Over the past few years, I've grown tired of making the excessive amounts of album reviews I tied myself to doing. I was covering anywhere from 3 to 5 new releases in dedicated videos every week, and I burned the hell out. I made it my mission as we went into the new decade to finally make something worthwhile and fun for my viewers to see, something that allowed me to cover a bunch of condensed album reviews all under one umbrella. That show is here, and it's of course called the Album Awards. Lots of love, care, collaboration, and listening went into making this project a reality, and I really do hope that you enjoy yourself on this debut episode that will touch on 21 unique releases that dropped anytime in Q1, that being January 1st to March 31st. Special thank you goes out to my Patreon supporters. Anyone donating over there at any level can vote in the polls to save 4 albums per quarter to ensure they get covered. The Q1 winners were the new albums from Mac Miller, Silverstein, Soccer Mommy, and Polaris. If you want to get voting rights next time around and support the content, hit the top link in the description to join. I know some of you might be a little bit confused on what the Album Awards is, so if you're wondering my criteria, the rules and regulations are on screen now, so pause so you can read through that, or else they'll be in the description down below. You're all filled in now, and we're officially ready to start giving out awards that don't even have physical trophies. I'm so sorry, but we're balling on a budget. Please do me a massive favor and like this video. It helps out more than you could even know, and it helps me continue bringing high quality content just like this. Subscribe to my guests that appeared in this video at the links below. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the first award of the evening. The Sucker Punch Award goes to Spanish love songs for their album Brave Faces Everyone. There's no better way to jumpstart this new show than with the first ever album award going to the emo rock band Spanish Love Songs. What they've achieved with their 3rd album is not only jaw-dropping, soul-crushing, and cathartic, it's flawless. Brave Faces Everyone is an album for the hopeless souls that need to know that they're not alone. It's an ode to the devastating pain life can bring and the way it can kick you right back down just when things are starting to go your way. Don't think of this so much as an album, but more of a therapy session that only requires a streaming subscription to visit. Musically, their talents will likely remind you of bands like the Wonder Years due to their fierce pop-punk leaning instrumentation, and of course singer Dylan Slocum's emotionally throttling voice that brought me to tears within 30 seconds of my first play through the album. It's unlike anything I've ever listened to before, and this album shattered my heart into a million pieces as I related to far too many of the lyrics that spilled out of them like blood from a stab wound. In the wake of the coronavirus, Brave Faces Everyone hits that much harder, showing that its true colors go so far beyond that of just one life or one circumstance. Even though the tone is desperate for a sense of light throughout, it's really only the title track that ends the album that pushes our inner courage to stand up and face today. I may still go back and do a track-by-track review of this album at some point, but for now, please know that I sincerely love every song with everything in me. And it's been a long time since music has affected me this deeply and this personally. A perfect score should probably come without saying, but to one-up even that, I truly don't see anything beating this when it comes to Album of the Year. PINEGROVE grabbed the Comeback Award for their album Marigold. January didn't hesitate when it came to letting the great albums roll right away, and one of my first loves of the year was Marigold by PINEGROVE. The album cover is kinda hypnotizing, is it not? It kinda sums up the album perfectly, and I'm not even sure why. As a band, they appeal to my conflicted younger self like none other. I was raised in the South on good old country music, but drifted away into the world of emo and beyond as a teenager. PINEGROVE are an alternative country band that complement their sound with some big old emo lyrics, with MARIGOLD containing some of Evan Stevens Hall's best writing to date. If you're looking for comfort and isolation, then I highly recommend listening to this album late at night, or like by a bonfire, or on a night drive at something. It's moody but stern in its convictions, a tried and true ode to humanity and our many flaws, and a complex but easy to understand package. Tracks like The Emotive Neighbor grapple with the topic of inequality through some genuinely clever metaphors, while The Alarmist boasts a lush, compelling sonic direction that features some of the most calming instrumentation of 2020, while Evan sings of none other than the tragedy of heartbreak. If you're in the mood for some dreamy mood pieces, I can't recommend MARIGOLD enough. Evan continues to bloom as both a vocalist and a songwriter, and I'm rating album 4 a strong 4. Everything in its right place. The posthumous album Done Right award goes to Circles by Mac Miller. Unlike most posthumous releases we see in modern culture that are so clearly greedy, orchestrated cash grabs from the label or else someone else trying to profit off of a fallen artist's name, Mac Miller's final record Circles was planned and thoroughly mapped out by Malcolm himself before his untimely tragic death in the fall of 2018. Producer, friend, and collaborator John Bryan finished the songs that needed additional work and helped Mac's final vision come true. If only he had actually been here to see how absolutely magnificent, therapeutic, and helpful it is for so many people, including me, now that it's finally here. This was a companion piece to the last record meant to be seen as swimming in circles when paired together, a commentary on how Mac felt his life was going. His open battle with drugs, alcohol, sex addiction, and mental health were apparent in most of his works, but his final 2 albums showed the Mac Miller that had grown to be a true artist in every sense of that word. Circles is a rich-sounding, vibrant album that touches everything from traditional hip-hop to R&B, pop, soul, and way more in a shockingly cohesive way. The lyrical narrative swarms the mind with honest thoughts on the subject matter I already mentioned, and without overloading you with details you've probably already heard a million times over at this point, I truly think that this was Mac's golden hour as an artist. Most of this record is untouchable, even when stacked up against his own discography. It's lovely, it's a proper send-off for an artist that passed away far too young at the age of 26. Let this be how we remember him, with music like this that spoke from his broken heart and mind, and let it also serve as a reminder that no one is above pain and addiction, no matter how successful you become. 4.5 for Mac Miller's Circles. The yawn-worthy follow-up award goes to Color Theory by Soccer Mommy. Please don't crucify me, but damn, what a letdown after Clean. Soccer Mommy popped on my radar with the single Cool from that album, and I ended up placing it on my year-end best list for 2018, along with saving it a spot among my end-of-the-decade favorites. Color Theory looked to be shaping up nicely as I heard 2 singles before it dropped, those being the dreamy Yellow is the Color of Her Eyes, and the wonderful 90s alt-rock soaked Circle the Drain. What could go wrong from there? I mean, those are 2 great Soccer Mommy tunes that I'd say are among Sophie's best, so it's all golden rainbows from there, right? Wrong. This album felt like a healthy dose of NyQuil straight to the brain. There's uppers and downers, but this snoozed its way through a collection of songs that I felt almost completely unattached to over 44 very long minutes. Outside of the 2 songs I named, along with the captivating Lucy, all 3 being songs that dropped before the album, we're stuck in a limp, slow-moving dud that would rather spend its time aimlessly wandering in the indie abyss than actually making an interesting composition. Half of the track list doesn't even feel like it has a hook. Not that every song needs a chorus, but damn, somebody throw me a bone here. Evidence of this? Royal Screw Up. That song feels like a pitcher winding up to throw a baseball for 4 minutes, but they never actually throw it and just keep doing warm-up stretches instead. Stain also has trouble finding its footing, and the cuts Night Swimming alongside Crawling in My Skin simply feel indistinguishable from really anything in the indie rock sphere. Gone is the sense of purpose I detected immediately on Clean. This is another prime example of,
Excuse me? Pardon me, looks like we have another e-boy on the World Wide Web putting out slander against a genre he knows nothing about.
And who the hell are you exactly?
Watch me literally throw the scarf back in disgust. I'll have you know, I am Soccer Mommy's #1 fan. I head up all of their Reddit pages, all of their Facebook fan sites, and I have been banned from no less than 3 concerts. Thank you very much. I have been escorted out by several different security members because I am #that devoted. Hello?
Yikes, wow. Sorry about that rude interruption from Soccer Daddy. The stands were very clearly feeling really brave on this one, but I'll be damned if I let that sway my opinion. It's a massive letdown that I see as being one of the most disappointing offerings of 2020, a light 2.5 for Color Theory. The Dynamic Duo Award goes to Denzel Curry and Kenny Beats for their collab album Unlocked. Denzel continues his quest of conquering the world on this collab tape with acclaimed hip-hop producer Kenny Beats. It's a shame that this album is feeling a little bit slept on, only hitting number 100 on the Billboard charts, but hey, it is what it is. Despite his success as a rapper, he's still kind of underrated, but his bars really help him stand out from the pack once again on this ravenous 17-minute, 7-track project Unlocked. He gets downright vicious on some of the more venomous cuts like Diet and the closer Cosmic, with some of the one-liners getting a whoa or an audible laugh from me while listening. Kenny Beats can't not get a shout out for his work here though. This entire EP came together in 72 hours, and that's no small accomplishment even for the most talented of artists out there. It's a step up from Zoo, but not quite at the level of Taboo for me. But seriously, there are some straight up flamers on this project, and I really hope that these two work together again in the future. Green Day grabbed the award for Hey, this could have been a lot worse for Father of All Motherfuckers. The singles misled us on this one, but unlike the Blink-182 9 Rendezvous I've mentioned before, this wasn't a super positive outcome, just a decent one that I can enjoy most of when it's on. But really, in all honesty, I have not come back to this thing much at all. The iconic Throwback Award goes to the Canadian band Rush for their album Grace Under Pressure. Man, this is really going to be a tough one to talk about, since, as you know, the iconic Rush drummer Neil Peart passed away in January 2020. My patron Andrew requested this, and considering I have the same person to thank for fully getting me into this band in the first place, this seems appropriate to cover now to celebrate Neil's life and legacy. Grace Under Pressure is the 10th album in their discography and released in 1984, and although this was well into their time together as a band, it was also a first for them in many ways. This was the first record since they'd exploded in popularity in the late 70s to not be produced by Terry Brown, and it's also the first album featuring Neil Peart's implementation of an electronic drum kit alongside his standard one. The preceding record Signals is a bit of a mixed bag for me, but Rush are one of those bands where time and time again you can see that they were onto something, like some idea that they were bound to move forward with in a positive direction, and I really think that they nailed it with the Ernest Hemingway inspired Grace Under Pressure. God, I love the invigorating feeling I get while listening to something as epic as The Body Electric. The guitar solo is hypnotic and there's some fantastic drum and bass work on there too. Kid Gloves makes me want to transport myself into an 80s 8-bit arcade game and fight every enemy in sight, while Red Sector A has to go down as one of my favorite tracks so far. The synths really set this epic, ominous tone. After Image rollicks with its show-stopping guitar licks, and the reggae-tinged red lenses furthers the band's obsession with the color red, but the magnum opus I think any Rush fan watching is anxiously awaiting for me to name drop is that monumental opening cut, Distant Early Warning. Let me tell you, the writing on this track is masterful. It almost feels a bit like racing through a city on a mission with some unnamed action hero. There's so many legendary sequences on here that it's not even funny. It just builds and circles and attacks with synthesizers, guitar solos, and of course, god-tier drumming. Grace Under Pressure isn't Rush's finest hour ever, but it's damn good. Rest in peace, Neil, and long live the music of the Canadian icons. The Chugga Chug Chug Award goes to Fate by Five Finger Death Punch. Oh wow, what an incredible step up from Five Finger Death Punch. I mean, really? I'm supposed to applaud them because this album Fate, spelled F8 like an edgy kid would do, because it's slightly less brain dead than the last few? Not gonna happen. No real praise to be thrown here. I mean, there's a few strong guitar moments and the music isn't half bad all the time if you're looking to get shit-faced and throw on something sort of heavy, but you could do a whole lot better than Ivan Moody and company, because if there's anything that I've learned with them over the years, it's that they're bad company. The boys in 4 Year Strong take home the This Seriously Slaps Award for their album Brain Pain. From Brain Dead to Brain Pain, we leap to the opposite side of the spectrum so that I can congratulate 4 Year Strong on their rip-roaring Good Time album. I've never kept up with this band religiously, but perhaps my antennas should be pointed to the wavelengths they're broadcasting more often. They wasted no time at all breaking it wide open with the thundering It's Cool, a song that starts teasing right away before giving way to a barrage of headbang-worthy guitars and catchy cleans. The breakdown at the end too is just fucking nasty. Just the fact that they can lead right into a more pop-punk tinged track right after that and it doesn't feel clunky is a testament to their talent. Talking myself in circles slices away at the psyche too. Such a refreshing build up to the chorus with some really choppy guitar work that pays off in a massive way on this ode to feeling like life is going nowhere. My personal top track from the record is The Worst Part About Me. I still can't get over how much fun they had on that career-spanning highlight. The bass riffage intertwined with those loudmouth guitars that drive their stakes in like hammers makes it irresistible. You really can't go wrong with the majority of this record if you're up for a fun, bumpy ride through the streets of 4 Year Strong's world. Everything from the sad, pensive mood Be Good When I'm Gone to the title track works like a well-oiled machine, and despite the occasional sidestep into generic territory, Brain Pain is a banger deserving of the award and a 4 out of 5. After much anticipation, the Worth the Wait award goes to Grimes, Miss Anthropocene. Grimes, that's who we're really here to talk about though, and her album Miss Anthropocene, a nice play on words there. This is her first record since Art Angels in 2015 and only her third overall, and once again, she delivers a fascinating reality that turns real-world emotion on its head and guts it from the inside out. There's a rockier aura to many of the tracks and some experimental moments that do go off the deep end, but the middle section of this album really got me invested as tracks like 4 AM conjure up a 90s Chemical Brothers breakbeat motive, while You'll Miss Me When I'm Not Around feels more straightforward with a cooing bass rhythm that hits a sweet spot. Miss Anthropocene isn't without its glitches. Some patchwork was definitely needed on those wide open mixes that occasionally worked against her, and even some of the vocal performances felt like Grimes on cruise control. But overall, it was a worthwhile return that even let us hear her singing in Japanese for pretty much the entirety of track number 2. Let's put a rating to it. I'm giving this one 3.5 Teslas out of Elon Musk's net worth. Stale memes are the best memes. Come on, everybody knows that. The Brutality Award goes to The Death of Me by the Australian band Polaris. So you hear the word brutality and your mind jumps the shark to chugging riffs and menacing screams that could fill a black hole with how tough they are. I don't blame you, and to be honest, I got the wrong idea about the Australian metalcore band Polaris on my first listen through The Death of Me. Lurking beneath the surface beyond the aggression you'd expect from a band of this nature are some really fucking good post-rock guitar atmospheres and fervent expressions of failure from their dynamic vocalist Jamie Hales. I'm not yet a certified expert on the Australian music scene, but is it common for metalcore groups of this quality to come out of the Gold Coast? Asking for a friend, because it's not like they're entirely up my alley all the time, but I'm getting some major Architects vibes from a large chunk of the album, and given how much I've been loving them recently, yeah, there's songs here that I can seriously get behind. There's so much generic metalcore out there that it can be hard to see past when you're seeking out a new act, but the saving grace here is that this was one of the winners of the Patreon poll that actually forced me to take a closer look at The Death of Me, and I'm so glad that I got the time that I needed with it. From the downright rowdy opener, Pray for Rain, to the close your eyes and let your mind focus on the music closer, The Descent, it's hard to fault their attitude as they tackle some pretty serious topics in an impressive manner. The Death of Me is brutal on a musical and emotional level, winning me over more once I actually paid attention to the details that they were offering up in waves. Polaris get a 4 for this promising sophomore album that's a surefire winner for really any fan of heavier music out there watching. Hot Mulligan take home the Shouty Pout Emo Award for You'll Be Fine. Hot Mulligan are hella talented, and I can vouch for them sounding just as great at their concerts as they do on record, but, bear with me here, I feel like a lot of their material works better in a live setting, if that makes any sense. You'll Be Fine is another solid outing, don't get it twisted and think that I'm saying that they've totally slipped off or anything. I mean, it's not as great as Pilot, but it's not like a massive step down or anything. It's just that those shouted vocals at the end of so many of the lines can get old, so even when the music is really sounding great and you're falling into a vibe, it can low-key almost get a little chuckle out of me when those giant audio spikes happen because of how much force he's putting on one word. So if you're not familiar, Hot Mulligan are a Midwest pop-punk and emo revival band that are a bit of a math rock group too that might remind you of bands like Tiny Moving Parts. They're signed to a great label, No Sleep Records, shout out to them, and I really do like quite a bit of the track list despite the overzealous whining in places. OG Buell Sky drops the needle on album 2, boasting some clean rhythmic guitars and fierce screams before really settling into a well-balanced groove. They do get a little bit extra with some of the song titles, but hey, coping mechanisms for depressing thoughts, am I right? The Biggest Offender might actually be the best song on here, and that, my friends, is Green Squirrel in pretty bad shape. I could easily see this being hit or miss for a lot of music fans, so if you're into the aforementioned genres or some moody, angst-fueled emo rock that's well played with some real backbone, then you'll probably cherry pick at least a few songs from it. I'll give You'll Be Fine a light 3.5. It's good, but there's definitely still some room to grow. The Hidden Gem Award goes to Beach Bunny for their debut album, Honeymoon. During the COVID-19 quarantine, I've been doing weekly live streams, and at one of those events, a viewer introduced me to the surf and indie rock band Beach Bunny. To that viewer, whoever you may be, thank you, because I'm 100% very much in love with their debut album Honeymoon that dropped on Valentine's Day. Right away, probably the first thing I noticed outside of how much I was grooving with their peppy music was their frontwoman Lily Trifolo's voice. It really pops like a crystal clear dagger in the mix with a blend of confidence and blistering emotion. April was the song that buried its DNA in me like a tapeworm, eating away at my insides until I caved the fuck in and listened to the entire album the next day. Oh, what's that, skeptical viewer? You don't believe in love at first sight? Please, you're clearly just jealous of what I've found with Beach Bunny. You don't have to be jealous. Join us. Come imagine you're on a sunny coast somewhere in 1997, because that's the kind of vibe a lot of Honeymoon gives off. Start with April, it really does light a fire in you as it goes on, as does Rearview, another back half beauty, but also give Promises and Miss California a go. I think the latter of those was probably my favorite song on here. Beach Bunny are indeed a hidden gem waiting to be discovered. Show them some support, check out their album, and take this glowing 4.5 out of 5 rating just like you took my money, because after one listen to the album, I had to buy it. I had to. Halsey deservedly takes home the Subverted Expectations Award for MANIC. Seeing an artist I've been hypercritical of grow into a musician that's made a body of work I can truly respect, appreciate, and enjoy? That's like a cliche movie ending or some shit, but I'm all about it, as MANIC is a front-to-back diverse listen that never stops subverting expectations. Even most of the interludes feel like full-on songs. I mean, come on, there's a brand new sample of Fork and Knife on the Alanis Morissette one. What more could we really ask for from Halsey? Credit and praise where it's due, she upped her game big time, and I'd actually bump up my rating to a light 4 at this point. The Industrial Innovator Award goes to Underneath, the latest album by Code Orange. Let me just open with an apology. I seriously meant to get a dedicated video on this out when the album dropped, but I was in the middle of my best albums of the decade video and this album essentially caught me in an alleyway, beat me up, didn't even take my wallet, just a brutal beatdown on the ears for the hell of it. An adrenaline rush slowly morphs your head into slush on your first listen through, but the effects started to wear thin the more times I revisited the record. When they nail the perfect blend of their hardcore punk roots and the industrial grind, we get the aces like Swallowing the Rabbit Hole. That song is absolute fucking madness with those erratic pauses and shifts in tone, but my god is it gripping down to the last drop. You'll find more incredible powerhouse moments on Underneath. I mean, I just named one right there. The title track is catchy, loud, and makes great use of both Jamie and Reba. I'm glad that they used her a little bit more on this record vocally, but still, I want to see even more in the future. Looking at it even from just a musical perspective, it's hard not to see the Nine Inch Nails worship that bleeds through a lot of the track list. Also, while I love one of the primary producers, Will Yip, who's extensively worked with bands I dig like Tiger's Jaw and Turnover, this project feels a little bit too cleaned up for my liking, at least for a band like Code Orange, and it almost feels like the different producers pulled the record into different lanes that don't quite add up for a stellar full-length experience. It's a complicated album that left me feeling very torn. Since I do have praise for a lot of the elements at play, I just kind of feel like a cowboy that can't quite round up all the bulls in the barn at one time. Some of you might love the utter chaos that dips so heavily into industrial metal, but for me, some of that initial shine rusted away, thus leading me to land on a 3.5 for Underneath by Code Orange. SLØTFACE take home the Fuming in My Bedroom Award on Sorry for the Late Reply. SLØTFACE are a Norwegian pop-punk and alternative rock band that are now on their second full-length album, and although I haven't heard their first record, hell yes I'm checking it out if this record is any indication of what this band can do with their sound. I wasn't aware of SLØTFACE until my buddy Crash Thompson,
It's me. Maybe you've heard?
covered Sorry for the Late Reply in one of his album review roundups. I tossed the record on while doing the lamest workout session ever in my basement since, like the rest of you, I've been stuck inside for quite a while. And what do you know, this record kicks so much ass that it actually kicked my ass into gear. Bounding right out of the gates is the Get Shit Done anthem Success, a dance-worthy moment with drilling guitars that really piqued my interest. Telepathetic has a super effective vocal melody with a vibrant hook, and then there's my personal favorite, the angsty as fuck Tap the Pack. Talk about headbanging the anxiety away, this one will do it for ya. Laughing at Funerals and New Year, New Me are two other super key tracks, ones that prove that it's not just about the intense energy blazing out the wazoo all the time, this band has the goods for the slow moments too. There's tons of certified bangers on here, neighbors, so channel your inner sad rage to this as SLØTFACE take home their Fuming in My Bedroom award alongside a smashing rating of 4.5. Dua Lipa takes home the honor of the Can't Stop Dancing award for the amazing future nostalgia. Let's see, dazzling production, shimmering 80s dance floor ready hooks, and so much more. I just can't get enough of Dua Lipa's album. I fully expected this one to be great, but this cleared the high bar that I'd already set in the back of my head. Pop album of the year? I'm thinking yes. I don't see anything in the mainstream top 40 setting topping this at all, but then again, 2020 has been one of the weirdest years ever in so many different ways, so who even knows? Either way, this is pretty much guaranteed a pretty high spot on my year-end list, so even if you're not typically into pop, give future nostalgia your attention because so much thought, care, and even real instrumentation went into making this a reality. After many years together as a band, Silverstein take home the, well, that's certainly different award for A Beautiful Place to Drown. Damn it all, I have never been able to get that feeling of love for Silverstein that so many others have. I mean, they're legends in the post-hardcore scene, so much respect goes out from me, but they've always been one of those groups that I just kinda casually listen to here and there. That being said, what the fuck is going on here, and why is A Beautiful Place to Drown so damn catchy? Wow, my first listen through this album left me scratching my head and thinking, is this identity crisis? But the more I heard it, the more I picked up on those irresistible bass grooves, catchy hooks, and yes, rather throwaway lyrics that we've heard raked over the coals 1,000 times over, yet the elastic bounce of the songs often makes up for what it lacks in depth. Smashing choruses like Infinite touch the stratosphere, plus its featured guests are actually put to pretty good use, with Aaron Gillespie being a prime example of what they did right. Caleb Shomo of Beartooth helps lift the slightly generic Burn It Down. I mean, come on. How many rock bands are gonna write a song with that title? And somehow, above all expectations, Princess Nokia fit pretty well on the small feature of Madness, a catchy song with some stunning bass grooves in its verses. However, Bad Habits is really the biggest winner here in my eyes, as it perfectly blends their roots with plenty of scream vocals along with this smoother pop-punk sound that really stokes the fire. There's definitely some gaps in the second half that I don't care about all that much. Say Yes left a sour taste in my mouth, and Coming Down and the track right before it played it way too safe, but I'll be damned if this wasn't at all what I expected in a good way. A Beautiful Place to Drown must have put some sort of spell on me, because despite its shortcomings, they delivered a pretty bangin' 3.5-star worthy record. Diverse artist Poppy takes home the Singles Were a Bit Misleading award for I Disagree. Badass songs are badass. I or anyone else cannot take that away from Poppy, who has become kind of the unexpected artist to watch breaking out in the past few years, but damn, my expectations soared based on the singles I heard, those being the title track I Disagree and the Sinister Concrete. It's not that the rest of the record sucks, like,
Ew, get this away from me. How could you drop those songs and totally mislead us because the rest of the record is so bad?
I mean, it can be fine in the moment, but a lot of these tracks don't leave much to the imagination that would make you want to come back again and again. Poppy's certainly onto something, and if she can continue bending genres and bringing the likes of loud guitars and heavy metal to make it work for her, then she's got a bright future on the horizon. For now, I'm standing by my light 3.5 on the new one. Check it out if you're interested, because it does have some great songs, but don't expect a ton of replay value. Theory of a Deadman, aka Theory, take home the Holy Shit, Chop My Ears Off award for Say Nothing. Holy shit, stick a screwdriver through my eardrum if I ever have to listen to this thing again. Not the delicious mixed drink that I've been known to get wasted on at events like this. I mean a metal blade capable of deafening me so that their pathetic attempts at political statements over utterly lifeless, soul-sucking instruments that sound like garage band presets would go right where they belong, in a garbage can. Garage band for the garbage can. Oh, come on, that was fun. Theory of a Deadman increasingly get harder and harder to listen to as the album rolls on. I mean, did anyone really need Tyler Connolly's take on current issues facing our world? Especially when it's done under the guise of these slow, brooding pop beats and, oh, their downtrodden guitars were emphasizing the piano. I can't for the life of me figure out what the band thinks they're accomplishing at this point. And finally, The Weeknd takes home the Cocaine and 80s Vegas Heaven award for After Hours. One last award to bask in.
Carol Baskin.
Before we wrap the first ever album awards ceremony, it's a big one that saw The Weeknd leaning into a style that almost effortlessly blends his trilogy roots with the sounds of Starboy and more. Abel told a cohesive story about old habits dying hard in a Vegas-dripped atmosphere. After Hours is a fantastic look in the mirror stuffed full of retro 80s leaning jams and more hip-hop influenced crooning. Line up the poker chips, mark my words, this is going to be one of the best mainstream albums that you'll hear all of 2020, and that's a big bet, and I'm not even talking about Vegas.
Well now, ladies and gentlemen, that was certainly an evening we'll never forget. We hope you enjoyed the album awards, and if you did, consider subscribing to this channel and all of the lovely guests, including myself, that helped with this inaugural event. Everything else you could possibly want, including John's socials, can be found in the description, and we'll see you again at the end of Q2 for more.